Okay, so what we're going to do in this video, we're going to talk about single lets versus HMOs. So first of all, we're going to get this done like a proper lecture. At least we're going to talk about something that makes us money. Lots of money, to be fair, right? Okay, first of all, so what we're doing is, as investors, as anyone, basically the top rich people in the world, one of the things that they do is don't focus on make money. They focus on acquiring and or developing assets. Acquiring first and developing it after, or just acquiring them and just setting them. What I personally do, I acquire them and develop them in some ways. So, but today we're going to talk about single lets. This is not great, so I'll see if I can get a better one. The children have caused a bit of mayhem. See if I can use this one. Yes, single lets versus. What I absolutely love is HMOs. So each one has got advantages and disadvantages. Single lets have got an advantage, which is what people call it let and forget. Again, let and forget. Because on the other hand, here in HMOs, you've got turnover. Okay, so here people tend to say my houses, they tend to stay up to a year, sometimes 2 years, 3 years. In let and forget single lets, they can stay up 10 years, up to 10 years and so on. So this is the advantage, but you've got higher turnover in HMOs. My HMOs, I think they're very little turnover, very, very little turnover. Therefore, another advantage here is little management. And on the other hand, got higher management. I started off thinking that you do understand what the difference is between HMOs and single lets. HMOs is when you rent a house room by room. Usually the definition of an HMO by law is when you rent three rooms, including the 3 rooms or above. So if you've got 3 rooms let to 3 individuals, 3 households is an HMO, and above is an HMO. This is the legal definition of it. If you've got only 2 rooms let in a house or a flat, it's still a single let. So you don't need to bother with legislation and so on. Now, I would say here, easier legislation. So the council hasn't got huge powers to prosecute you in single lets. They can still do it, but they haven't got as big of powers. And then high regulation. We're maybe not going to talk about the regulation in HMOs, but basically the same house, if a fire happens, if it's a single let, pretty much is the likelihood that something is going to happen to you in terms of prosecution and whatnot is much lower than an HMO. In an HMO, you've got to make sure that you've got license and they don't find anything untoward after the fire. Usually, when we're talking about regulation, it's mainly about fire regulation. That's the strictest, the highest risk regulation you've got to take care of. What we do in our HMOs, we put grade A fire alarm systems whenever is easy for us to do it. Whenever we have to rip them out and do the menu, we put a grade A fire alarm system just because we can. Because this is the best fire alarm system. It's not as if it is required, but it is the best one. So it gives you the best peace of mind. So then I can't think of any more advantages. I can only think now of some disadvantages. Let's talk about disadvantages. And then they become advantages here. But we'll talk about the disadvantages. Disadvantages is you've got very low control. In all my single lets, I make sure I get a strong guarantor. A guarantor has got a house or a business, or houses or businesses has got heavy, has got assets, or as a doctor, have got higher, quite an important profession. Usually if they're doctors, they've got a house. So I need, for any of my single lets, what I normally do to mitigate the risk is strong guarantor. The reason is because you've got low control. So what they can do, they can grow cannabis in your flat, house, whatever. They can lose you loads of money. They can rip out kitchens. They can do whatever they want in the house. You really don't know anything about it. They can keep pets. In the house we're sitting on, I think I spent £20,000 because they wrecked it by just keeping animals and doing horrible stuff in this house. So we had to spend loads of money for it. So then, which it becomes an advantage here, which is advantage, which is you have high control. You've got very high control. So how do you get this control? It's because if you've got a number of people that are not related to each other, say in each different room, if somebody tries to, it's very hard for people to start a cannabis. My highest fear is the cannabis growth. It's very hard for that to happen. So, and then they're going to notice if they want to rip out a kitchen, they cannot do it. If they start causing chaos, keeping up pets or anything of the sort, you'll know immediately people are going to start complaining. Any maintenance issue, usually in HMOs, you'll know much faster because too many people, and they will report it much easier. So you've got a higher degree of control. And then in my experience, when you talk about insurance, you've got a better rates of insurance in HMOs than in single lets. This is what I found. So you've got higher control, you've got peace of mind. All our houses, HMOs, I had for several years now. No issue whatsoever. Nobody tries to do any cannabis growth or anything of the sort, taking out kitchens or huge thefts or anything, or huge damages. Somebody tries to cause malicious damage, immediately people realize it. So they cannot even attempt it. So it's extremely safe. So I would say here, I would add a bit safety of the asset. So, and then also for fire safety in an HMO, you're even better off because there's always somebody inside the house. So if something happens, immediately, people know about it, so they can call fire brigades, they can firefight. If they really want to do it, we advise our tenants never to do that. Just leave the premises and whatnot. No fire has ever happened. Anyway, what I normally do in all our houses, we take out the gas cooker and we put electric cookers because what we find is that fires usually start in the kitchen through the gas cooker. People forget the gas on and off you go. So that's one. So disadvantage of single lets is low return on investment. Very, very low return on investment. And usually, in order for you to be profitable in single lets, you need to have at least, people say 3, but I would say 5. Because what happens is, when usually the numbers go in a way so that if you've got 3 HMOs, usually overall you make some money, because sometimes in the 3 houses, get some money if you've got 3, because one can have a boiler going down or a tenant not paying. You've got to evict them. Therefore, the other 2 houses have got to pay for the third one. So even then, I would advise to have 5 rental units to make sure you've got some sort of positive cash flow, because you never know what's going to happen. I look at it from that point of view. So far, things have gone well for me, but this is the reality of it. So if a tenant moves out and they cause you huge damage, it's going to eat out the profits of maybe up to 4 to 5 houses, because you've got to understand that you still have to pay the mortgage for the house. And then, so the other rents have to pay for that mortgage, plus the repair costs, plus whatever you have to do to that house. So it is very, very low ROI. This is why I don't particularly like it. And then, whereas here you only need, say, 1 HMO to pretty much take the place of 3 or 5 rental units in terms of safety, because in a 5-bed HMO, you're very unlikely that you're going to have it to actually to lose money, because there's always going to be somebody sitting there. Usually in an HMO, you need 3 people to make it viable, meaning that you don't lose money. Anything more than 3 people is profit. So then I would put it in compliance. I should have put it before. This is not planned, but I'd say I've got low compliance, and high compliance, high regulation compliance. Compliance, costs. So what does that translate? Low compliance meaning that if they don't maintain the garden communal areas in the house, the council cannot do anything to you. If it's an HMO, you have to maintain the garden. You have to maintain the communal areas. You have to maintain the communal areas clean. This is the way the legislation is drafted. In my experience, most councils are okay. They don't really bother too much. Sometimes you get the odd cases where they're really tough on you. So what we find is that in HMOs, people tend to keep them clean, but if you've got a bad tenant, everything becomes difficult. We managed to resolve this problem by putting cleaners in place and doing a rota. So if a tenant has to do the cleaning on that week, if they don't do it properly, we send a cleaner and we bill the tenant. Usually once we do that, people start keeping it clean. So there's a high degree of compliance in HMOs. But the good thing is that in HMOs, you only need usually, if you've got 6-bedroom houses, only 3 houses and on average to be financially independent, to quit your job. So whereas in single lets, I would go at least to 10. So it takes much longer, 10 houses or 10 houses to quit your job. That's it. And this is because 5 houses, you can expect something to always happen. So when something happens in a house, you need to have 4 backup houses to cover the costs of whatever is happening in that one house. So, and then the cash flow from the other 5 houses possibly you can rely on. I wouldn't even go to 10. I would go even higher number than that. But usually you find, if you do the calculations, 6-bedroom, 3 6-bedroom HMOs, usually it is enough if you buy them right to make you more than financially independent, meaning that at that point, almost whatever job you're going to get, it's not worth your time anymore, because you make more money when you sleep by the HMOs than when you are working for someone else. So that is what you can do these calculations yourself. Maybe we can do it in another video. So this is only a short comparison between HMOs and single lets. Personally, I always invest in HMOs because I can do on HMOs. What I do is the BRRR, maybe another R, buy, refurbish, refinance. But not only do I get most of the money out when I refinance it, I buy them on auction or very low price, refurbish it, I refinance them, rent them, and then once they are refinanced, usually the return is already in place. I get my money back from the bank, or if there's some money left, I really don't care because I get it back within 1 year, 2 years, worst case scenarios, 4 years. I don't really care. So, and they're very, very, very good. They're very stable. Once you've got an HMO, it's self-sustaining usually. If it's big enough, you bought it right, it's self-sustaining. It doesn't cost you anything to keep. It puts you money in your pocket. Pretty much any HMO I've got puts me money in my pocket every single month. So without break. I don't even think in all these years I had one HMO that didn't actually cash flow positively. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.